and democratic public education, as well as social, racial, and economic justice on our campuses, but also beyond our campuses.
Thanks, Sam. And welcome, everybody. Good morning. Just to reiterate what Sam's saying, a couple of you will have heard this last night, but if you're in your early or mid-20s like I am, in our lifetimes, tuition and fees around the country, on average, at universities have exploded by 400%, and student debt has tripled just in the last 9 years. So this is a very recent and very acute crisis. In Virginia specifically, state funding for per college student has been cut by $5,000 just since 2001, and that cost has been directly shifted onto the pockets of us, students and families, and our families. Tuition at public universities of Virginia has increased 41% in the last 5 years, which means that our public higher education in Virginia is the 5th most expensive in the nation. Basically, I'm sure we all had this experience growing up. People say you should go to college if you can to make a better future for yourself, but it's increasingly impossible to afford to do so. More so a matter of accessibility and the fact that Virginia ranks 49 for socioeconomic diversity in our public universities, which is a really shameful statistic. And those of us who are able to go to school, more often than not, are in huge amounts of debt. 60% of folks are graduating with debt, on average $25,000. So we wanted to mention these numbers, but the real reason we're here today is to tell the stories that are behind these numbers. We really wanted to gather to demand that the state takes bold action towards ensuring that public higher education in Virginia is debt-free and to stop balancing its budget on the backs of students and working class families.
Yeah, so even though we're facing some horrible realities in the state right now, I'm really excited to say that we've all gathered here today to hear from students, high school students, recent graduates, parents, and allies from around the whole state to talk about this pressing issue. We know that student debt is a reality that we're all dealing with, so we wanted to make sure, as Claire said, that our stories are emphasized here today. So we want to make sure that everyone has a chance to tell their story if they want to. So we have a number of students who have offered to come up and give their personal testimony of how inaccessible education is affecting them every day. We'll be hearing from a number of people, as well as a few folks who will be talking about some of the bills that we're following right now and supporting, because we consider them an example of the future and like what could potentially be beneficial for our state in regards to higher education. We'll also have some spoken word and some songs throughout the event, because art and culture is also a really important part of social change. And finally, around 11:30, we're going to grab our signs and our chant sheets, and we're going to walk out of here and chant to the Capitol and really make our voices heard. So I'll hand it over to our first speaker, Jamie Mack from VCU.
Hi y'all, so I just wanted to share my personal story with you today. As she said, my name is Jamie, I go to VCU. So my senior year of high school was very, very stressful for me. I became estranged from my father, and my mother is disabled, and she has been for a while. So I didn't know how I was going to pay for college. So I get to college, and I'm taking out loans for everything. Since my sophomore year, I've worked every single year, 30 hours a week, just so I can pay my bills. But all of my tuition comes from financial aid. Unfortunately, it's not even enough to cover everything I need for school. It's gone down every single year since my freshman year, to the point that this year I got $15.77 back as a refund after paying my tuition. That's not enough to cover a single book. That's not enough to cover any of my rent, any food, nothing. So yes, it's been definitely a burden on me, and I know I'm not the only one. I know all of my friends are also struggling in different aspects. So I guess, yeah, I just wanted to say that, you know, this personally affects me, and I know it affects a lot of people that I know, and you know, if I want to better myself and go to college, you know, that's what everybody tells you is the only way. But it's not really helping me a lot, is it? You know, I'm putting myself in debt. I'm going to be chained to this debt for the rest of my life. My older sister, she's the only one of my older siblings to have completed college. She's just turned 30, and she has hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt, and she pays over $200 every single month to try to pay off this debt. And I see her daily struggle, and she tries to help me as much as she can. But, you know, she has her own debt to bear. So, yeah, it's definitely a real struggle, and I, you know, just want to emphasize that this is a personal thing that people experience daily, and that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Beatrice Aquino-Kine, and I am a sophomore at the University of Washington. So my story is a little difficult for me to tell because it's not only my story to tell. When I was a senior, let's just start in 2005. My dad was unexpectedly deported from the United States. And we immediately overnight went from a 2-income household to a 1-income household, and it was very difficult for my entire family to come to terms with. Essentially, my parents cleared out all of our savings just to cope with the differences in payments. So as I was going through high school, I discovered that, oh, you don't really have a college fund, whatever, all your friends might have college funds, but it's okay. And so I wasn't necessarily focused on going to college or going to an institution right after I graduated from high school. However, my dad was returned to us in 2010. I think I was a junior in high school, and I was thrilled because I missed him so much, and it was just a really great few months. But then I soon realized that I had to start applying to colleges again. I'd start taking my studies extremely seriously, and emotionally it was kind of difficult because I had gone these 5 years without having that additional parental figure, and I wasn't really focused on going to college, like I said. But I got into a few colleges. I was really happy with the choices I made ultimately, but when it came to actually paying for college, I think that was the most daunting thing for me. I knew my parents did not have the money, and so I didn't even want to ask them for the first tuition payment. However, at Mary Washington, in order to enroll as a student, you need to complete your financial aid package. And I remember looking at that website and just breaking out into tears. It was so difficult to come to terms with the fact that I needed to basically sign my life away in order to enroll into this university, and it was so difficult. I was trying to find so many different ways around it, and it didn't make sense to me, and so I just gave in and just started taking out loans. And I think the biggest struggle for me was having to hear from all of my cousins and all of my older mentors that had gone to medical school, that had gone to law school, that were on in graduate school, and listening to them saying, if you can get scholarships, get as many as you can and things like that. Do not take out these loans. Literally your life will be over. And the first thing I did when it came to my own college decision was take out almost $20,000 in loans. So yeah, it's been really difficult, and I think the biggest thing for me was knowing that my siblings have to deal with this as well. I have 3 younger siblings. One of them is a junior, one of them is a sophomore, and the other is in 8th grade. And they have all been watching me as I progress through this transition in life. And I don't know, it's kind of embarrassing because I know that they're going to have to deal with the same thing, even though they are exceptional students, and there really isn't anything for them to do. I mean, there's scholarships, but I'm even on scholarship, and I'm still taking out loans. I understand what we're doing here is so vital for the future, and I think that if there's anything we can do, I think it's be in support of this one bill that's being proposed by Delegate Cox. I can't even stress, even though the auxiliary fee is gonna take off a few thousand. I mean, it's better than nothing really. But yeah, that's my story.
I'm basically a student at VCU, but I'm actually taking the semester off due to financial struggle. My freshman year was fall of 2013, that's when it started. And I'm an out-of-state student, but I feel like my parents are kind of idealistic and really hopeful and just wanted to do everything for me. And I was really, I won't say persuaded in a negative way, but they were just really encouraging when I wanted to come to GCU. But towards the end of my first semester, when I wanted to register for classes, I couldn't because the semester hadn't been paid off, and you can't register for classes unless you paid off that semester. So that's basically how I found out that my parents couldn't afford it. Like, I was just calling my mom and what's up, and eventually she was just like, we can't afford it. So I had to go back home the second semester that was supposed to be the end of my freshman year. So I went back home to Georgia, and I worked for a semester and just lived with my parents, which I think a lot of us can understand can be miserable. Like when we go back home, it's just like, I want to get out of here. But I was there for a few months. And I used that semester to try and find other ways to pay for school and try and find out how to get back to Richmond because my whole life is here basically. I just had a really amazing experience that small semester I was here. So I found a house and I signed a lease on my own. And I came back and last semester I took a few classes and had a work-study job. And even though I was really proud to be back, it was really hard because I was always struggling for money, grocery money. I barely had any spending money, and just the family I come from, I don't think my parents are very good with money. I think we couldn't deduce, so budgeting was something completely new to me since I grew up in a pretty affluent community. We started out the middle class, but kind of like we said, I feel like the recession really affected us. So I wasn't really sure how to handle not being able to afford to just live really comfortably. I also, since I was in art school, and I was struggling so much with just paying for groceries and my bills all the time, there was barely any time to focus creatively. I don't have a digital camera because I just can't afford it. I don't have any nice programs on my computer to do digital editing, and the school has those for us to use, but the hours that the school could provide, I was always working in class, so I had to always do my assignments the day they were due pretty much, which I don't usually do. I don't usually procrastinate that much. So it was hard in a lot of ways. And when I went home for winter break, I found out that my father was going to use his 401k to pay off last semester. So basically decided, I'm not going to do that to my parents. It's like the older I get, the more I realize I feel like I'm just screwing them over, and they're supposed to be the voice of rationale, and they're just telling me we want you to do this, we support you, but now it's completely correct to step in and say my parents can't do this anymore. So since my job was work study last year and not taking classes this semester, I had to find a new job, and I'm still in the process of doing that. I'm just hoping my parents can support me until I find a job. So this is really important to me. This is just about having enough money to go on day to day, and it really shouldn't be this dramatic. I feel like this is ridiculous. So, thank you.
Hey, my name is Zachariah, and I am a student at the University of Mary Washington, and I'm here to represent the voice of the Virginia Student Environmental Coalition. We're a sibling network to VSPN, statewide network trying to address and mobilize against the issues, environmental issues that are going to affect youth in our state and around the world. So I'm a graduating senior. And there's really not a day that goes by without someone asking me about jobs or about graduate school, all the other uncertainties. It's pretty hard not to feel worried at this stage in my life, but unfortunately myself and almost all of you and my peers don't have the luxury of that being the extent of our worries. Because every day and week and month we see another report about tuition rates increasing nationally in our country, about climate change being a more and more urgent issue that will drastically affect our future. And we realize the extent of the issue that we face, and it's far beyond just getting a job, and it's far beyond just going to graduate school. We have things that are going to, so in high school, when you look at college, it has this very glossy veneer. It's like, it's going to be something that's an investment into my future, and it's going to ensure this bright thing for me. And I think since I've been in college, I've only realized things just don't make sense. Like enrolling in such a university is going to cripple people for a lifetime financially. That these institutions are investing in an industry that is inherently destroying the very earth that we live on. And there's two things that you can do in these kind of moments. You can kind of cower in fear and just blind yourself to it, or you can mobilize and you can realize that you have a stake in your own future, and that's what you all are doing today. That's what hundreds of other students are doing right now with their lobbying their politicians. It's beautiful. I mean, it's incredible, and that's why we're here also to support VA House Bill 1877, which is sponsored by Delegate Krupika. So this would be coal tax credits, or coal tax credits are expiring soon. So this bill would use that additional revenue for the additional guaranteed assistance fund, which provides grants to students in Southwest Virginia who are accepted into public universities in VA. So with both of these issues that I've been talking about, climate change and student debt, this is a really bold way to address them. And we need our politicians to be taking bold action. We can't do it all by ourselves. We need our politicians to stand with us and say that we deserve a bright future. Like going to college, that shouldn't cripple us. That should be an investment into our future. This is something that this is not something that's, moral or anything like that. We deserve this. We deserve to have a bright future by going to college. And it's the state's obligation to help students in that fight. This grant money is really critical because it will mean that students aren't saddled by student debt once they graduate. And I can't express it enough that what y'all are doing right now and what students are doing statewide, we are a force that is making incredible change. And these are the kind of bills that we need to pressure, and that will help us to continue to build a brighter future for ourselves. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Zachariah. The bill that Zachariah just talked about to put more money towards these scholarship funds rather than funding really destructive coal industries that are destroying the planet we live on. The sponsor of that bill, Delegate Kupriga, is actually here. He wanted to say hi and say a few words.
Hi, everybody. It's great to see you all here today. This is fantastic. Martin Luther King Day is always a really big hobby day, so I know when you guys are out there talking to folks, you're going to see people everywhere, and the elevators are crowded. My first word of advice is use the stairs as much as possible. The elevators are terrible, especially today. All of you know the challenges of student debt, so I don't have to tell you something you don't already know. But the bill I put forward, 1877, is not just about student debt, though that's obviously kind of the primary vehicle for it. It's about thinking, what is the economy of the future going to look like? And are we going to grow our state's economy by investing in a technology that's, or a resource that's diminishing, like coal, a resource that hasn't proven to actually be a strong creator of jobs or a strong economy, because the economy of Southwest Virginia is actually the weakest economy in our state. So we're putting these coal tax credits into a part of the state that hasn't succeeded economically. and if anything, it's actually gotten worse. Highest rate of poverty, highest rate of unemployment throughout the Commonwealth. So as you go and talk to people about this bill, which we're going to ask you all to do, you're going to hear folks say, well, we need to protect these coal jobs. The reality is this tax credit goes a lot more to line the pockets of corporations you might employ than it does to support the people who actually do the work. And the economy of Southwest Virginia has not been bolstered by these tax credits. In fact, that economy keeps getting weaker and weaker as we move forward. My argument, which I think is the argument you're all making, is that if we invest in the students from Southwest Virginia, if we help them go to college and graduate without debt, if we help them come back to their community and buy homes and cars and create businesses using those higher degrees and the education that they have, that's going to do a lot more for attracting businesses to Southwest Virginia, for growing the economy of Southwest Virginia, and turning around Southwest Virginia, than continue to invest in a strategy that hasn't failed. You know, they say if you do the same thing over and over and over again, and you expect a different result, then you're a fool. Well, we've been investing in these coal tax credits for a long time. The economy in Southwest Virginia has actually gotten worse as we've done it. And you have to kind of question, why would we keep investing in an economic strategy that is failing the people of Southwest Virginia? It is time for us to think about an economic strategy that will actually help them. And my argument would be investing in higher ed and making sure students can graduate with limited or no debt is a much smarter way to spend our economic development dollars and grow jobs and improve the economy of Southwest Virginia. 1877 takes all the coal tax credits we have and basically turns them into money to support financial aid. It could be worth about $100 million. It's big money for financial aid in a state that really is lagging behind a lot of its peers around the country when it comes to financial aid. So I want you to help me kind of press this message that this isn't just about climate change, it's not just about the environment, it's about actually being smart about how we spend our state's resources to improve the economy in Southwest Virginia. And we all think investing in college students is a smarter way to improve the economy in Southwest Virginia than continuing to do something that hasn't worked. The other thing I would say about this bill is 50% of the money is going to go to the students of Southwest Virginia, 50% is going to be spread throughout the Commonwealth, help students everywhere. So we're not trying to just target there, we're trying to recognize around the Commonwealth, the more students who have access to financial aid and the ability to graduate without debt, the better off the entire Commonwealth's economy is. You know, there was a time in our country's history where we understood that investing in the next generation was not just morally right, but it was economically right. That leaving the next generation with the opportunity to be more successful than their parents and the folks who came before them was kind of a moral obligation we had as a country, and it also led to really strong economic growth in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s. We've really moved away from that, and around the 1980s, early 1990s, we decided as a country that the way you balance tough state budgets is you jack up tuition. And we just kept doing it. And that's essentially what we did when we passed the budget amendments we needed to do this last fall to put the burden on higher education. We asked them to do it. We're essentially asking higher ed to raise taxes that we're not willing to raise as legislators. Whenever we ask colleges and universities to take care of take more budget hits, we're just asking them to raise tuition. And it's essentially a tax on families and college students, and it's a tax on our economic future of the state. So this bill is really meant to change that dialogue and recognize it's time for us to invest in our students again. It's time for us to do the kind of economic development that will actually grow the economy going forward, as opposed to let places in our state just fall to the ground as Southwest Virginia is experiencing right now. And I want to ask you all to be supportive of this, talk to people about it, and if we don't pass this year, we're going to keep talking about this, because you all are the economic future of our state, and I guarantee, I'm very confident that investing in all of you is a lot better for both Southwest Virginia and the rest of Virginia than almost anything else we can do, and I'm going to keep fighting for that. So thank you for being here. I've got handouts for you that explain the bill and give you all the stats and statistics you may want, and I'll pass them around. And my office is on the 7th floor of the GAB. If you have a chance, come by and we'll take a picture if I'm not in a meeting or something like that. Thank you all for being here. You're doing great work. Appreciate it.
So as many of you know, I mentioned earlier that art and culture is a really powerful part of social movements. Oftentimes art and song can actually be a form of protest. So we're going to have like a small interlude through all these really powerful stories and engage in a song really quick that no.
Not really.
You need to get hired.
It's all right. Say the word, Virgin.
We shall not give up the fight. We have only started. We have only started. We have only started. We shall not give up the fight. We have only started. We have only started. We have only started. Together we'll have victory. Hand holding hand. Hand holding hand. Hand holding hand. Hand holding hand.
Good morning. My name is Giancarla. I'm a little bit sick, so if you can hear me, just let me know. I came to this country when I was 13. I came with my little sister after not seeing my parents for 7 years. I came here as an undocumented, and I'm known as a dreamer. I have DACA right now. I don't understand. As I was going to high school, I always thought I was going to go to college. And even in my senior year, I remember when I never told anyone about my documentation because I was always scared that I was going to be deported or they were going to come after my parents. So I've been living here for almost 8 years until last year. When I started in high school, it was really difficult for me because I thought I did something really bad. I thought I did something horrible and I felt like I didn't deserve anything. So I started to volunteer and that helped me. But then in high school, I told my counselor I was undocumented and I remember he told me students like you don't go to college. And it was really hard. But then I said, well, students like me don't go to college, I'm going to be the first one to go to college. So I've been applying for a lot of scholarships. I applied over 70 scholarships until now. And it's been really hard because I think the lack of resources. Schools don't put emphasis in the resources. I did not receive any help. I would go after my career center, say, where do you think I get from scholarships? They would just give me like random websites and like, this is not helping. So I had to go through my own way, trying to see like different resources. It was really hard because at that time, there wasn't any help for undocumented for dreamers. But then 2012 came and President Obama gave a DACA, which is a temporary status, to dreamers. And in Virginia, we still had to pay out-state tuition because the last Attorney General said that we couldn't pay in-state tuition because we're not really legally, or it's not really a legal status. So it was really hard because I went to community college and I had to pay almost $10,000 a year for a community college, and it was just through scholarships, and even my parents tried to help me. I had to work more than 40 hours a week, and then in 2000, it was last year that the Attorney General said that now dreamers can pay in-state tuition, but we cannot get any financial aid, any loans. So a lot of students still struggle. I might not understand like what is to feel in debt, but I understand the struggle to access higher education. I am the first one in my family to go to college, and I have 2 siblings who look up to me. And this is just so important for me, and I understand how mad you might feel that why is this happening. I'm just doing what my parents or what my parents came here so I can have a better future, a better education. And I want to let you know that there are ways to go to college. I know right now loans might seem the only thing, but there are scholarships, and we have to pressure our representatives or senators to keep funding these resources so it can be more accessible. And I just want to say don't give up. And I can see a lot of faces here, and this is what is going to bring us united. Again, for dreamers, we might want the bottle, but we still have to fight because we have 2 bills right now. Right now in the Senate that will discuss that will appeal in-state tuition for dreamers. So that's a constant worry for a lot of dreamers because we depend on this in-state tuition. Thank you very much.
Her flight got canceled because of weather, so I'm going to speak on her behalf. Good morning. My name is Rachel Brewer,
a junior at George Mason University, but a native of Connecticut. Doubtlessly, my peers in attendance today are discussing the monstrous payments their education requires alongside other figures and numbers designed better to show you how rising tuition costs affect every student imaginable. However, there is no number that we could use to describe how much we've surrendered simply to afford the inescapable, atrocious cost of higher education. In the past 4 years alone, 8 members of my immediate family were diagnosed with a variety of cancers. My grandmother was even diagnosed twice. Only 3 of them are still here with us today. Despite all of the pain that trails in the wake of cancer, no tears fell faster than those that came when I realized that my family declined various treatment options to ensure that there would still be money for me and my sister to attend college. I am filled with anger beyond words. My family had no choice but to choose between my grandfather and my sister's future, to choose between 2 grandmothers and my education, to choose between their right to life and our right to learn. I lost 5 of the closest friends that I'll ever know because they could not afford to give the treatment they deserve, all due to the inexplicably ridiculous cost of higher education. During these past few years, I've lost more than I could ever find words for to be able to pursue my passion for learning. And I know I'm not the only one here who suffered an incredible loss while struggling to meet the payments demanded of us. I do not intend to stand here and plead for answers as to why my family was forced to make such a decision. I'm here to know how you will ensure that no student of Virginia will ever face such a dilemma again. Thank you.
So, my name's actually Oda. I just pronounced like I'm out of here. Cool, got it, awesome. So I'm a senior at WNL in Arlington, Virginia. High school, cool, awesome. So obviously I don't really know what the whole being faced with debt is, because I'm not in college, so I don't have to pay for college yet. But I grew up in a really educated home. My parents both have high degrees. My brothers are pretty much all attending college. There's 5 of us in total. So we have a lot of people to pay for, and one of them, well, 2 of them are currently in college. One of them is doing a law at NYU, so I don't know if you guys know anything about NYU, but it's pretty expensive, and so is a law degree. So my dad is basically paying for all of us to go to college at the same time. He actually works at a university in California, working for lower income people to actually be able to go and get a higher education, get a degree. He's been doing this for like 10 years. He's a pretty young guy, but thanks Dad. So growing up, I guess in an educated family, this was never really, not a dream, but something kind of expected of me, that I was going to go to college, that I was going to get my degree. I always dreamed of having a PhD. My parents had their diplomas up, and it seemed like decoration at the time, but I never really realized how much went into getting that. And now being a high school senior, I realized that my dad has to pay for all of us to go to college. My little brother is eventually going to have to do it as well, and he still has to provide for us, and just a lot of stuff.